Okay, well, let's get started. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for this webinar about this Essbase AgentCube that we've been talking about. If you've been following us on LinkedIn, you're in for a treat today. We are going to be showcasing what this Essbase AgentCube that we've been talking about ties in with ChatGPT and Claude. We're going to be showing live demos. We're going to be answering lots of questions. So we definitely encourage everybody, if you have questions throughout this webinar, to put it in the Q&A. And once, this is being recorded, but we are not going to be distributing the recording link. However, we highly, highly encourage, if you found this webinar interesting and you have follow-up questions, to contact Edward and I, and we will have, our contact information is actually on the screen. And are going to get this live demo brought to you by Edward Roske. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Edward to kick us off.
Awesome. And we'll put the contact information up at the end as well. It's interesting. I did a really hurried version of this on November 7th because I mentioned this to the world that we had this working on November 4th. And I originally said, in 2 weeks, we'll hop on a Zoom and see if anyone shows up. Well, everyone said, no, you must show it to us immediately. So we rapidly scheduled one for November 7th, and I didn't have a single slide, even my contact information. So I was spelling things out loud. So you're going to see exactly 2 slides this time. 1, contact information, which I will flash up again at the end. Number 2 is I was describing things with my hands in terms of how the architecture worked. I thought it would be fun to actually make a diagram. So I'll show you exactly how this technology fundamentally works. One of the things you're going to come away with is, I really want to use this. Awesome. Sounds good. If you want to use it, Lillian will remind you at the end, reach out to Lillian. So lbuziak at Caprus.AI. If you have technical questions, you want to know if something works and how it does, just email me at edward@roske.ai. And now slide number 2. So you've gone through 1. Here's the second one. So fundamentally, Essbase has it does a great job of storing data, a great job of showing data, particularly in spreadsheets or in structured queries. What it doesn't have the capability to do, at least at the moment, is let you ask questions in plain English. And you must spell everything correctly. You must know exactly how the member is formatted or no data comes back. You must know exactly where to look, and it can't do any insights for you. Well, we just started thinking, why can't we make AI-powered Essbase? Why can't we put the power of chatbots and large language models on top of Essbase? So we've been working on this for a while, and we said, what we want is not to come up with a new large language model that talks to Essbase. We don't want to replace ChatGPT or Claude. Like, you don't want to compete with the frontier models. That's kind of ridiculous. Instead, what you want to do is you want to give them access to the data. You want to let them plug into, it could be Essbase, it could be Oracle EPM Cloud Planning or EPM Consolidation. It could be something entirely different. I don't know, you're connected to a competing technology or something. That's totally fine. What you want is you want it to retrieve the data in real time. You always get the current answer. You don't want to have to export it to like a relational database or something to go access. You want it in real time, and you want it to show up in the chatbot you're comfortable with, and you want it to not hallucinate. Well, there's a way you can make this happen where it can actually go talk to a data source without hallucinating, so you get 100% accurate information. And that technology is called MCP. It stands for Model Context Protocol. And that is about as technical as I will get today, unless someone has some technical questions in the Q&A, and I'll answer some of those. Well, what we've done is we said, let you go into your LLM, your AI assistant, and let's be the bridge. Let's be the translator. It goes from that AI assistant query back to Essbase. So it restructures the query, Essbase returns its answer in seconds, gives it back to the AI assistant. What does this actually mean? I'm about to show you some very technical terms. Users, LLM server, and Essbase. I'm kidding. So finance leaders, that's your people. And it could be finance. I don't know, maybe you want to open up to every cost center manager. Let them ask questions about their department in whatever their language is, English, Spanish, Japanese, it doesn't matter, because the LLM will handle it. So whatever question you ask, that LLM is going to go, wait a second, I don't actually have this data. How do I get it? You've given me a new tool to play with. You've given me a new agent. And that agent is what we built, that MCP server there, it's what knows how to go back and talk to Essbase or talk to EPM Cloud Planning or consolidation or whatever it might be. The first one we rolled out all of 2 weeks ago to the moment is talking to the underlying cubes. But then immediately we got requests going, well, what if we want to see, I don't know, supporting detail or want to know who has what access to which data slices in planning or something. So wrote another, we'd been working on the planning one. I just didn't know if anybody would be interested. So we're going to release that one fairly soon. But what's out there at the moment is talking to Essbase. The number one question we got, because we see some repeat people from the 7th, which is excellent. So keep me honest that I'm saying the same thing. And also, in some cases, notice my answer has evolved because I've changed slightly kind of how it works underneath. Well, 11 days ago on the 7th, people said, can this be accessed by anything? And I said, yeah, I'm going to show it to you in Claude because I really like how Claude accesses it. But the number one question I got back was, can I talk to it through ChatGPT/Copilot? And if so, how to make that work? So I'm going to show it to you briefly in ChatGPT, and then I'm actually going to flip over to Claude. Nothing against ChatGPT. It works fine for accessing. I actually just like the humanness of Claude a little more. That's Anthropic's model. It's personal preference. I have paid copies of both. The number 2 question I got was, how difficult is this to get it connected to your AgentCube, to get it connected to the MCP server? So I'm going to show you. You hit the little thing in the bottom left corner, and then you go to Settings. And then you go to Apps and Connectors, and notice right there, it says Essbase MCP server. There's an app browser. You're not going to see ours show up in the app browser because it hasn't been published to the store yet, which is why it says dev right there. But this Essbase MCP server is what's going to be our bridge from the large language model back. And there are other ones that they have out there. Notice I actually have it connected to my Gmail and my Google Calendar, my Google Drive and whatnot. If you really want to connect it to your Peloton so it can yell at you for not biking enough, apparently that's an app you can do. But anything that's really a data source or an action you want to take can become an MCP server. So this is the one that ChatGPT is going to use. That's what we created. So normally when you type connect to Essbase or can you connect to Essbase, it's going to come back and tell you it has no idea what you're talking about. It's in some cases, it'll write some AI slop for you in terms of how one might theoretically go up and connect to Essbase. But notice now, look for available tools. This one, we are blocked because the authentication isn't there, but it tells me the capabilities that it has. It can do things like listing the Essbase application, exploring a specific app, querying some data, running some MDX, listing dimensions. All these are power that MCP has. So now what I'm going to do is go show it to you with the opening through the front door because I actually have my connection login information saved over in Claude. I didn't want to see you typing my password in ChatGPT. So I'm going to stop sharing this one and I'm going to flip over. But all these things are capable against the Essbase cube. So you can get the apps, the databases, MDX, you can get specific cell values. You can retrieve the biggest cube you possibly want out there on the planet. All that's totally fine. So I'm going to stop sharing this one. I'm going to flip to a slightly different laptop, which is why you're now going to see my angle of my head turn slightly. So we're going to share, and I'm going to show you Claude connecting. Okay, as you can see, I've done this 700 times so far today. This works the exact same way as ChatGPT, except in this case, because I've been working with it already today, as opposed to just having added it in, it's got my contact information. So now if I say, can you connect to Essbase? Remind me, I'm going to explain this model thing in a second. So I'm going to say, can you connect to Essbase? And it's going to go off and decide if Essbase is up and running. It's contemplating. That's fun. I'm going to test this connection to Essbase for you. Notice it tests it. Every time you see this little E appear right here, that's when it's calling the MCP server. So this one has my connection information. So it knows the server name, it knows the username, it knows the password. On ChatGPT, if I'd given it that, it would connect to it as well. It knows the version we're running. People ask, like, is this an old version? Now it's 21C, 21.7. And there's my server address, in case any of you want to go. I'm kidding. Don't query my Essbase server. But that's what it's doing. What would you like to query or explore? I don't know. What have I said? What applications are available? Now, it knows because of my username and password that it's going to go back to Essbase and say, what applications does Edward have access to? Well, I have access to ASO SAMP, compensation, and sample. I'm going to use sample because most of you are familiar with it. It's the old beverage company application. But one of the questions I got last time was, can it access really big dimensions? That's actually why we have these other two out there. Is ASO SAMP has a geography dimension with just under 15,000 members in one dimension, and it's able to handle it just fine. So you'll notice I'm going to type like connect to sample basic. How about I ask something slightly more complicated? Show me, wait, what dimensions are in sample basic? Now notice it doesn't know yet what basic actually is. So it's going to go try and figure it out because all it knew is that we had a sample application. It didn't retrieve the cubes underneath. But it says, I can go into that app. It's smart enough. This is the LLM being smart, not Edward. The LLM says, well, I'm guessing that basic probably comes in under sample. So now it runs another function of our server, which is get the cube schema behind the scenes. So here's year, measures, product, market scenario. What would you like to query? I don't know. Show me actual sales for market, I don't know, for months across the top. And I'm going to give it some interesting language here because this actually isn't in the cube. Months across the top and product categories down this side. Now, the term product categories is not actually in there. And I could have very well spelled some things wrong. It might not be called sales. It might actually be called revenue out there. So it's going to go off and it's going to run a really big query. So it's putting markets across the top. It's putting products down the side. That is a ridiculously large query. So I'll say start over, do quarters across the columns and product categories down the side. So it's actually writing the MDX through the large language model. And it's just calling it. So no human has to know what to actually go out and call. So there are my 4 quarters. There's colas down the side, root beer, cream soda. It's doing a little bit of analysis for me. I didn't ask it to, but it's saying, I'm going to look at total sales across all markets. Root beer is the strongest performer overall, which oddly it is. It beats cola out there. Fruit soda legs the other categories. As we all know, fruit soda just doesn't get the credit that it deserves. So I could say zoom into colas. Now, every time I do this, I'd use different language. And I do that on purpose because I think it's kind of fun to have the large language model figure out what I'm talking about. So I could say zoom into colas, or I could say show me the children of colas, or I could say show me the descendants, or whatever. Drill into, show me the children, anything I want. The LLM is smart enough to know what the MDX requires. It knows the terminology that it needs, and it's essentially translating for me. So it's going from zoom to children. Now we see cola, diet, caffeine free. Regular cola dominates the category, representing 55 to 60% of cola sales. Awesome. Diet cola is steady at about 28 to 30. Caffeine-free cola is about 12 to 13%. Now, what I'm using right now is this Haiku model, and I promised I would come back to it. Notice the response time is seconds to get back. That's because this is a very lightweight model from Anthropic. If I wanted to, I could switch to a more reasoning model. What that would do is it would take longer. It's a trade-off between thinking, basically the IQ of what the large language model does, and how long it takes the request to come back. So I'll show it to you. It's not a lot slower. Notice the responses I'm going to get. So this is a pretty bland explanation. Regular cola dominates. These percentages, by the way, like 55 to 60% of cola, it's calculating that all on its own. But I'm going to switch to the Sonnet model. And because it's a new model, it's going to start back over. I'll say connect to Essbase. I'll try this all at once and we'll see if it can handle it. Connect to Essbase sample basic. Here, have fun with that. By the way, it is really amusing to me to see if I can ever hit the limits. And normally I can't. Like I'll ask for something really complicated and intentionally obscure, and it's going to be able to resolve it. So in this case, I just said all at once, give me Essbase, give me sample, give me basic. I'm going to connect to the Essbase sample basic cube. It tests the connection. Awesome. Here are the applications. Here are the cubes. Perfect. I've connected sample basic. Now notice this is a more intelligent model. So it actually understands things like block storage, and it knows it's a cube in the sample application. Notice without me ever asking it to, all I said was connect, It's like, you know what I probably should do? You're probably curious about the dimensions. By the way, Sonnet 4.5 loves being pleased with itself, so it'll do lots of exclamation points. So you're now connected to Sample Basic with the following structure. That cube is ready for queries. What would you like to explore or analyze? I'll ask for something weird. Let's say, I don't know, actual versus budget for New York and Massachusetts. Now notice I'm not going to spell out Massachusetts. I'm not going to spell out New York. These are, I think, actually, I don't even think NY is in the cube, but the concept of New York is in the cube. The concept of Massachusetts is in the cube. So because this is a smarter model than the Haiku model, it'll actually go off and figure it out. It'll wander around for a little bit and go, okay, what most likely is New York going to look like? What most likely is Massachusetts going to look like? There's another capability that you're going to get out of Sonnet that you're not going to get out of Haiku. And that's the ability to wander around kind of on its own. So I might kick it off while questions are answering just because I think it's super fun. But you can actually tell it, go wander through the cube, finding insights as you go and figure out, is there anything interesting? Is there anything non-obvious out there? I'm going to show you what it's actually doing behind the scenes. So let me look at like this one up here for like list applications. So the large language model knows what the function, basically it's calling a function called list applications. It's returning, there's no arguments to it, right? It already knows the server, just give me the applications back. It is going to return back to the large language model a kind of ugly, for any technical people on the call, it's a JSON format, JavaScript object notation. This is kind of the language the LLM talks internally. But notice it would never show you this because it's really ugly. It's like, why are you showing it to me, Edward? It then takes this and it knows how to actually make it into English. So it knows ASO samp and compensation and sample. Same concept with the cubes. This one does require an argument to the function because I only want the cubes inside of the sample application, and it's going to go cool. Within sample, there are some cubes, there's basic, it's BSO, here are all the dimensions that it has. Same concept for this cube schema. All of this is being retrieved back. It just doesn't need to explain that to me in boring, ugly notation because it's like, hey, I want to show that to you in English. So anything you're going off and asking for, notice it figures out the actual members are New York. They're actually called Massachusetts out there. So here's New York's actual budget, and here's the variance. I never asked it for the variance member or the variance percentage, but it's smart enough to look for it in the cube, and it is there, right? There actually is a member called variance, a member called variance percentage. So it's actually getting that back from the cube. If it wasn't, the large language model would calculate it for me. My strong recommendation always is that you let the cube calculate it correctly. The reason for that is any number pulled back from the cube, you can be guaranteed there are no hallucinations. It is 100% accurate coming back. This is the number. If anyone want to go check it against your sample basic, actual sales for New York for our total markets will be 34698. So all these numbers are totally accurate. Anything that it creates on the large language model side, there's a possibility that it's hallucinating it. This is kind of fun. It's actually creating. So this total actually isn't in the underlying cube. There is no combination of New York and Massachusetts. There's total east, but it's able to bring these two numbers together. Now, I don't want to scare you about hallucinations. The rate, depending on the model you're using, drops to between 3% and 0.3%. Things like simple addition, this actually used to be really hard, like how many R's are in strawberry. It's not anymore. Things like that are going to be really, really easy for it to calculate. So I'm 99.9% sure that if you want to check me on these numbers, they're going to turn out to be correct. If it gets into doing really complicated, I don't know, internal rate of return calculations, take it all with a grain of salt. Both markets performing well above budget. New York represents 70% of actual sales. Awesome. Massachusetts represents 30%. I don't know. Let's focus on New York actual sales. Now I'll say that same thing, right? Show me months across the columns. And what did I say before? Product categories down the side, on the rows. However I want to say it, it's going to work either way. So what you'll notice is it's going to do better analysis. It's going to come up with totals entirely on its own. It's going to sound more human with the Sonnet one, but it's going to be more like you're talking to a human analyst. It's not going to give you sub-second response time. It's going to give you a couple second response time. So here's cola, January through December out there, root beer, cream soda, fruit soda. Notice this is so much better than the Haiku model, right? Cream soda leads with some strong performance. 981. Colas show some summer strength. Root beer has an interesting spike. Ooh, possibly seasonal. Fruit soda, whatever, $600, $800. Diet drinks, likely no activity in New York. They don't drink diet stuff in New York. That's for like West Coasters. Summer months, June through August, are generally strongest across most categories. Cream soda and colas perform particularly well. So any type of analysis that you want it to do, and by the way, you can ask the LLM to make up ratios for you. Also, Sonnet 4.5 does a really good job of combining metrics that you don't necessarily have in the model. So you might have profit margin or gross margin percentage, but one of the ones it created on its own without me ever asking for it in the last week was revenue per ounce and profit per ounce, and then calculated and analyzed it for me. So one of the things that you can do is you can say, I'm sure this cube has lots of interesting data in it. Can you wander through the cube and find some insights for me? Want both financial insights and non-obvious insights. Now, this is a case of I probably don't want to sit and watch it actually do it, although it could be kind of amusing while I take questions. This is the type of thing where you could let it go off and run on its own. I let it run for about an hour a week ago, and it wandered around and found insights in Sample Basic I never knew were there. Things like inventory levels dropping at certain points, different profitability by region and product. So notice it's so supportive. Great idea. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Claude. We're going to explore Sample Basic. Interesting. It gets really excited when it finds stuff. It's looking at profit margins. It's examining expense breakdowns. It'll wander for a while until it thinks it has enough stuff to tell me an interesting story. So I'm going to check inventory levels. I'm going to check turnover behind the scenes. But this, in my opinion, is the next stage of chatbots because, first of all, we now have the ability to query an underlying cube in plain English. That's stage one, though. Stage two is now go query yourself. Go figure out on your own. Go wander through my, whatever, 500 gigabyte cube out there and find all the stuff I should have found before. We're going to look at diet drinks regional performance. It showed interesting numbers. I don't know what it thinks are interesting at this point. It dives down in, somehow it's gotten obsessed with Central. Every time I run this, it comes up with new stuff that it wants to go look at because I didn't really give it any specific direction other than just wander around within. So I know lots of you have a ton of questions that are all starting to come in. So while this thing wanders, I'm going to look at a few questions that have shown up. How much does it cost to maintain? The easy answer to that one is nothing. Like I had forgotten when I connected ChatGPT to my Google Calendar because there's no effort. Once you get it connected and it stays up and running, at that point, I can now ask questions of ChatGPT like, do I have any important meetings coming up today? I connected to my Gmail. So now I can say, please look at my emails and tell me the 5 I need to respond to in the next 24 hours and draft possible responses to them. Once that connector is installed, it just works from that point on. There's a related question to this, though, which is, does it cost any when you're actually running it? Like, is there a cost to connect to the MCP server? The answer to that is actually no. The MCP server will run in your environment, whatever your environment is. It'll run in your environment, and it doesn't actually use AI. It is thousands and thousands lines of written Python code that go back and do the querying of Essbase, but it doesn't actually do any AI calling. Where your cost actually comes in is tokens that you're using on the LLM side. So it's been wandering for a while. As it's going through and doing all this, I'm using up my AI side. So I have the $20 a month version of Claude. I have the $20 a month version of ChatGPT. It's pretty much unlimited. Depending on your version, you could be limited to like 100 plus messages every 3 hours. I'm limited to a certain number, a few million tokens every 5 hours. So it hasn't hit the limit yet. So there's no additional cost, but there could be if you're paying by the token side. Kind of curious where it's going with all this. Let's see what it actually came up with. Here are some financial and some non-obvious insights. It's got a flair for the dramatic. We have a profitability crisis. There are some major budget misses across all the products. every single product category, missed our budgets for profit. Interestingly, because I think if you look at the details, it actually beats sales on budget, but it's missing the profit side. Regional profitability hierarchy. Good job, Central. You rock. Way to go, state of Texas. West, lowest, needs attention. I don't want to call out any specific states. I just happen to know that California is not as profitable as Texas is. We have a West Coast problem. They have the highest sales. Good job, California. But West generates the lowest profit percentage. They have really high cost of goods sold. They have a lot of marketing spend. Maybe we have pricing issues, cost structure. Gosh, bless Massachusetts, the hidden profit gen. Small sales, but massive profit margin. That is beats any state in the East. We have some non-obvious insights. A negative profit, it knows that's a bad idea. This is the only product market combination in the entire cube that it could find that's actually losing money. Every other product in Missouri is profitable. Something is fundamentally broken. Iowa is surprisingly specific about where it makes money. Diet drinks have a paradox. That enigma about New York, highest sales, but pretty miserable profit margin. It's wandered around inventory. It's looked at some margin. And then it goes on because it's a smart thinking model. Maybe these are some actions you could take. For instance, can we do whatever Massachusetts is doing elsewhere? Maybe we need to figure out if Missouri should just stop selling cream soda. Can we do something better with our inventory strategies? And again, this is the trade-off between the more complicated model, the Sonnet 4.5 model, also uses more tokens on that model because it's doing thinking and reasoning, versus that more basic model that I was connecting with on the other side. So notice this is much more cut and dry with that Haiku model. Okay, more questions that are out there. How does it know that this is in USD? Great question, because it's not, I don't think it's anywhere in the sample basic cube. It figures it out sometimes based on the fact that it sees states. So it sees New York, it sees Massachusetts, and it makes a conclusion that these are in USD. That isn't 100% necessarily correct. Like for instance, say we were, I don't know, US subsidiary owned by I don't know, Canada, and all the data would already been converted to CAD. If it saw a currency dimension, then it would say, oh, this is in USD, this is in CAD, this is in Euro, whatnot. Because it only saw US states, it's going to make the conclusion it's on USD. But yeah, that's not coming from Essbase. That's actually just the LLM trying to be smart. Can you clarify whether Essbase, this Essbase AI, I like that name, can be enabled for FCC, ePBCS, TRCS, and EPM Cloud? Two answers to that question. Number one, yes, it can connect to the cubes underneath. So if you've exposed the REST API access to the underlying cubes, the answer is yes. In some cases, you want to go through the front door, not the underlying cube side, or the cube just isn't exposed out there because it's not like a freeform cube, it's a controlled cube. To do that, you need a slightly different MCP server. So we have that created to go against planning. We were rolling out the Essbase one first because the Essbase people just haven't been shown love in a really, really long time. But if you want to work with us on the planning one or the consolidation one, just let us know. To answer that question more broadly, this technology for MCPs can work for anything. And what I mean by that is any data source you've got, you could connect to it. So one of the questions we got recently was, can you connect to HFM? Or does your technology connect to HFM? Yes, an MCP server can connect to HFM. We just hadn't thought anybody wanted to do it. But we told that company, yeah, we're happy to create it for you and show you exactly what this looks like to go off and do it. While this is focused on writing MDX in the background, Estimate can also write BSO calc scripts. Yeah. Oh, hey, Trey. Yeah, I see a lot of friends and people I've worked with in the past on here. Yeah, it can write calc scripts. It's better at MDX because it's not actually our MCP server. It's the large language model. There's more stuff out there about writing MDX than there is about writing calc scripts. You need to work with some prompting to get it to write a calc script correctly, but particularly the reasoning models. So like Claude 4.5 Sonnet, ChatGPT 5.1 thinking mode, they're quite good at it because they will keep trying until they get it right. So they'll try it once and like, oh, I got the syntax slightly wrong. They'll fix it, they'll tweak it again, they'll tweak it until it eventually works. So the thinking models are better for things like that. Does the MCP server hold a per user planning token, or do you use a service account that can impersonate users based on their access? We're not using a service account because then I would have to recreate the security model that Essbase planning consolidation already have. And I'd rather use the security model that's already there. what it's doing is it actually has several different security modes. You can give it a username password server, and it'll store it securely and pass it across. You can use OAuth authentication. You can use single sign-on, whatever you want to do. You can do a secret. You can do a token download to get it to connect. But yes, it's using your user-specific one. If you have a cube that's like just a generic finance cube and you want everybody to be able to get into it, yeah, you could do a service account. And you could say, cool, everybody that connects to that server is going to get that cube and they're going to see all the financial data that's in it. And you could embed that in the MCP server. But yeah, it's not really impersonating user accounts. It's using whatever login information that you're given. This looks amazing. However, sample basic is a small cube. Yes, it is. Our cube sizes are way bigger, especially planning cloud. How's the performance with big cubes? Great. Like I said, the great and wonderful Gary Chrissy put ASO SAMP and the connections apps out there. ASO SAMP has a dimension with just under 15,000 members geography. What it does is when it does the query the dimension, it doesn't bring all 15,000 members back because I know clients, there's a client that sells boat parts that last check had a dimension with, I think it was 10 million members in it. That would just clog up the LLM. So the way I wrote the MCP server is to give you portions of the outline based on your query. So like when it's like it never pulls the whole dimension back. So when I say like zoom into east, that's when it's going to give me the children of east. Or I say drill into colas. That's when it's going to give me the children of colas. So on the ASO SAMP app, when I drill into the geography dimension, I'll do it step by step so it doesn't have to pull all 15,000 back. But yeah, performance is great. I mean, it's the same answer to how like SmartView would work or like Dodeca. It can be slow if your Essbase cube is slow, but assuming your Essbase cube is really, really good, your Dodeca retrieve is going to be good. So same concept here, right? The LLM is going to be really good. Are the capabilities connect to ARCS transaction matching? I should just line everybody up and let them all submit their requests in terms of connecting the data. Yeah, the answer to, oh, by the way, keep filling all these in. I'll take questions for about another 10 minutes. I know we're over, but these are fun questions. You can connect to anything with an MCP that has an open front door. So ARCS, products formerly known as PBCS, ePBCS, FCCS, all the current names, all those have a good front door, which is REST API. The MCP server can talk to that. Someone asked, can you expand the execute MDX dropdown and explain how an MDX query is generated from a natural language query? Ooh, that's fun. I get to demo something more. That was my my good friend Tim. So I'll show that one. Okay, let me go up to, I'm back on. Let me go back to the more interesting model. You notice up here when it's saying query cube data, this is not actually running MDX. I actually gave it the ability to, if it wants a specific value, it can do a query cube data to get a specific cell back. I also give it the ability to do a grid query where if you know exactly what you want to see in the rows and the columns, it can do that. Like you didn't ask, Tim, but I'll show you. So like this query cube data one, it's requesting a specific value, right? Show me sample year, Massachusetts, total product sales, actual. For this application. And then it gives that specific number with a nice little time date stamp if you want it coming back as well. Different than the MDX. So let me go down to an MDX one. Here, this one's good. So this one, it's specifying the specific members out. So it's saying Jan, Feb, Mar, April, May, June across the columns. It's saying put the products, and notice it's doing children of products on the rows out there. Let's see if I can find a more interesting MDX query. How about this one? So this one, it's doing form market, show me the children of market on the columns, show me the children of product on the rows, where it's total year, total profit, total actual, and I'm connected to the sample database. How am I writing all this amazing? I'm not. This is actually the large language model. So the large language model knows we can now query our Essbase cube if I give it to you in this format. So it's actually writing all of this. I'll answer your next question that you're going to have, which is what if like the MDX doesn't work? It actually will. Let's see if there are any here that do. Nope, it got all these right on the first try. Once in a while, this one probably, sometimes it'll call a function that might exist in someone's really specific MDX implementation, like only on analysis services. It'll realize as soon as it calls it, an error will be retrieved saying, I'm sorry, I don't know that. It'll then tweak it and ask it again until it works. So it doesn't error out. It just returns a, hey, try again. And then the large language model goes off and tweaks the query at that point. But yeah, LLMs are actually really good at writing MDX. They're also really good at querying specific cells or querying columns. And they even get all the spelling right because they're doing this list dimension members first. So they're saying like, hey, I want to know everything beneath central, right? So here's the parent, show me the stuff underneath. It then gets all the members correctly, so Illinois, Ohio, and whatnot, so that it then knows how to run the MDX actually better. So we're letting it be a tool agent out there. Good to see you, Tim. Yeah, so the simple answer is it's happening in the LLM. The LLM is what's generating the call to the MCP server. The MCP server is actually doing it. How's the connection to Essbase established behind the scenes? It's the code that I wrote. The MCP server is calling the various REST API functions to go through the front door. What about security and access concerns? I get this one a lot. It is validating off of your server, your username, your password, or your security token, or OAuth authentication, or anything like that. But I will give you a concern. It's not mine, but anybody can out there can create an MCP server. I don't know, they'll vibe code something and they won't necessarily know what they're doing when they actually roll it out. And if you use one of those MCP servers, there potentially could be a security issue on the back end. So my advice is, unless you know the person or company you're getting it from, don't go randomly download someone's code in their basement in North Korea MCP server. You all know me on this call, so you know what I know what I'm doing on the security side. And yeah, I've got a whole lot of reputation that would be on the line if I was trying to hack anybody's information. So you're good with mine. Just be careful about generic MCP servers out there. You saw that ChatGPT, until you actually authorize it through the store, actually puts your query in red and puts a circle around it with the developers mode, letting you know that you potentially could be using an unsecure server. I just know that mine is secure. And it's not security. It's always going to go through the REST API front door. The security hole is like, are they storing your password in plain text or something? How do you get the MCP for Essbase and planning? Is it from your site? Excellent question, Chad. I'll give you contact information from a second. Ooh, show a dashboard in HTML. Yeah, one of these. Sorry, one of the capabilities that a large language model has is it actually knows how to do things like charting. It can make you like an interactive application. So I showed some charting like a week ago, and people are like, "Oh my God, you built like a charting engine." No, I didn't. What was actually doing the charting was the large language model. I was providing the data to the charting out there. So I'm not demoing it right now, but I just told it, go make a pretty visualization of some data. And I'll flip back over there in a second and show you whatever visualization it came up with. So what we are paying Caprus for is the MCP server and additional updates. You're mostly paying us for the configuration, the installation, and the updating of it. Yeah. So all the code is there in the existing server, but it does need to be configured on your side. For productionization, your IT department is going to want it in a specific space on probably inside the firewall in a controlled environment, so you don't have to go out externally to go hit whatever it is. You're paying for Caprus to figure all that out. Work with your IT department, get it up and running, everything. Are using full CI MCP server to connect to Essbase? No, I'm not. I'm not using any existing MCP server. I hand created this MCP server from scratch out there. I say hand created it. There are MCP libraries out there that help handle a few things like security. So there's the base library. In my case, it's Fast MCP. But all the development, there's no existing MCP server that I'm using it. So in response to Giannis's excellent question, I just said chart one of these. And it's like, I'm going to make a compelling chart to highlight the systematic underperformance issue because you all suck. No, we don't. It's just Cola's has some improvement areas. The most alarming finding is Cola's has the best gross margin, but missed its profit target by 27%. Anyway, so this thing off to the side is all that it's generating. I could have even told it, this is static HTML. I could have said make an interactive visualization. Then when you hovered over each thing, it would show it as well. I know a lot of you have lots of other questions that are coming in, but I think I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to turn it back over to Lillian for a second just to talk next steps, because I know a lot of you want to do more stuff.
Okay, actually, Edward, if you may, we just have 2 more questions in the chat.
Hit me live.
Yeah, we can squeeze it in, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Because Hari has been waiting. So
Cool.
this first one is a 2-part question. Can the model add, update, delete dimension members? And then can it initiate a database refresh?
The answer to that question is the current one, I could have done that and I disabled that functionality. I could have given the ability to do write back because it's in the REST API. I could have done the ability to kick off a calc script. I could have done the ability to modify a dimension, to start and stop a cube, to refresh a cube. All that is out there in the REST API. For ease of people getting this approved by their IT department, I number one wanted to do it with MCP because that isn't the open standard for connecting to any type of data source. So IT departments like open standards, not some proprietary shit. Sorry for the language. The second thing was I wanted it to be read only right now so that you could get approval for it. That said, really straightforward for me to add it. So if there was a company out there that said, yeah, we actually want to be able to let users kick off calculations, or we want something for our administrators that lets them modify a dimension or something, I can totally add it for you. There are other things that I actually have on my dev side where I've turned it off for the production side. One of those is caching, where I'm actually, if the user asks the same thing twice, right now it'll actually hit Essbase with the exact same query both times. Essbase caches, but I turned off my caching just so that it's nothing but an in-memory pass-through. IT departments like in-memory pass-throughs. They don't like you caching and storing data. So it's real time, instantaneous. What was the other question, Lillian? That was a good question, Hart. Okay, that broke up.
One more question from Juan. Beyond retrieving Essbase data, I'm sorry?
No, I can hear you. Beyond
Sorry,
retrieving
Edward,
Essbase
did you say
data.
something?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a roadmap where the MCP connector could support write back actions like creating forecast adjustments or launching business rules directly from an AI conversation?
Yes. I mean, my roadmap is to support every REST API function that's out there. I'll probably do it as a slightly different version. So there'll be kind of the read-only query version, and then there'll be like a full use version. And I don't mean that from we don't know how we're going to price it. So not from a freemium standpoint. I just want to make it as easy as possible for people to get their IT department to approve this. So it'll be a lot easier, I think, for them to approve the query only, read only version versus something that does write back or launches business rules or all that. But it's out there and it's really easy for me to expose access to it. Like I said, the user requests for new features and data sources that have come in the last 2 weeks. I've been up coding since 3:30 this morning. We're going to take them all and we're going to prioritize them out, put them on the roadmap. So it's actually really odd how often the launch business rules things comes up. More often at the moment in the last 2 weeks than write back. People really want to kick calcs off for whatever reason. So I might turn that on in the short term and then let IT departments decide to disable it or not, depending on kind of what their individual needs are. But yeah, like I said, it's really straightforward to get this up and running on the surface. The reason Caprus needs to actually be involved with your IT and your network team is every company will handle security a little bit differently. They'll open up and close different ports. They'll like turn on or off different REST API access. Caprus can go figure all that out as people want to implement it. On the surface, if you were doing it for yourself, it really is as easy as I showed you in ChatGPT. Click on the little plus sign in the bottom, click on settings, add a connector, and you're done. Then it'll ask you to authenticate off of Google or whatever, and then you have connectivity. IT departments want more layers than that. Okay, Lily, any other questions?
That was it. That was it. So, yeah, thank you, Edward. This was amazing. And thank you, everybody, for staying beyond the 30 minutes that we allocated. As you can see, we had a lot of great questions. We had over 100 people join this webinar. So, thank you, everybody. Just wanted to leave you with a few just next steps. So for everybody who are, Essbase users or interested in talking to us more about a possible, proof of technology, a pilot, please reach out. I am actually going to send out a link where you can, it's a few question questionnaire and you can just share a little bit more about your current Essbase environment. And we can get back to you on what, possible next steps can look like and how we can possibly help support and get this into your environment. And the second, if you are a partner and what this is interesting for your customer base, we would love to speak with you. One thing to note is that we are solely working on this solution with the MCP and the LLM, connecting into your client's approved LLM that they are already using. We have zero interest in any kind of EPM implementation. So we just want to partner with you and do more great things for your customers. And for everybody else, want to thank you again for your time. And please reach out to myself for any other questions, or if you want more details, or anybody else who might be interested. And with that,
awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for like almost an hour out of your life. I will keep posting updates online. Stay informed. Let me know if you have any technical questions. Let Lillian know if you want to try this. She'll put you in the queue, and you want to get in the queue as fast as possible. It is getting to be a very long queue. So thank you, everybody. Look forward to working with you more. Good seeing everybody.